Welcome to Module 1 of the Safety and Violence Prevention Curriculum, Barriers to Academic Achievement. This training has been approved by the Ohio Department of Education and was created in consultation with experts on the topics covered. The purpose of this training is to help you feel more confident about responding to students who might be struggling in school and in life, and to give you some ideas about what to do and where to go for more information. You are not being asked to provide therapeutic interventions for the students involved. We hope you will be able to let the student know that you notice them and that you care, and that you will be able to refer the students involved to the professionals who are trained to provide interventions. It is also important to note that every module of this training will highlight resources for more information, which are available in the handouts. The links to online resources can also be found by selecting the Resource button on the Safety and Violence course. In this module, we will cover the topics of resilience and protective factors. We will discuss non-academic barriers. We will talk about indicators in terms of early identification, and we will talk about the referral process. But first, listen to this message from Dr. Pedro Noguera, shared at the 2012-2013 Partnerships for Leadership Summit.
So often in schools, because we focus on the symptoms, not the causes, we overlook the needs of our kids. Who are we most likely to punish in our schools? The kids with the greatest needs. The kids who are furthest behind. How do we punish them? We deny them learning time. Send them to the office. Send them home. If the reason why a child is acting out at school is because they're abused and neglected at home, sending them home is probably not going to solve the problem. If they're acting out because they can't read and they want to be sent to the office during reading time, unless there's a reading specialist waiting for them, that's not going to solve the problem either. Lawrence Kohlberg reminded us many years ago, the goal of discipline is not to teach kids to avoid punishment. He said the goal of discipline is to teach them to do what's right even when we're not looking. What does that mean? It means we have to focus on character. It means we have to focus on the underlying causes. And it means we have to reconnect them to learning, because if they're not connected to learning, guess what? Discipline doesn't even work. The hardest kids to discipline are the kids who've given up. I was at a school in Cleveland not long ago, sitting in the principal's office, and he suspended a student for truancy. So you're not coming to school, I'm going to suspend you 3 days. The kid said, I want 5 days. Give me 5 days. He said, okay, smart aleck, you got 5 days. So I'm sitting there, incredulous. Student leaves. I said, do you really think it's going to work? He said, well, it won't get him to come to school, but it will get him out of my hair for 5 days. Ask yourself, are we using discipline to change behavior or to get rid of kids we don't want to serve? There's a direct relationship between the achievement gap and the discipline gap. And if we are not finding ways to change behavior, if you find you're punishing the same kids over and over again, what does that tell you? It ain't working.
What does work? Life can deal anyone some pretty serious challenges. As Dr. Noguera pointed out, many students face problems with physical, mental health, families, and communities. To deal with these stressors, students need healthy coping abilities and perspectives on life, which together create resilience. Search Institute has articulated 40 developmental assets that promote resilience. Schools can influence some of these 40 developmental assets. As we focus on these, think about ways to help our students be successful in school. Take a few minutes to review the developmental assets in Module 1, Handout 1. Circle the assets you feel schools can influence most before moving on in this video. Here's a list of some assets schools have influence over. Building positive relationships, a caring school climate, parent involvement in school, service to others, safety in school, safety to take risks and ask questions and try new ideas, school boundaries like clear rules and consequences, and adult role models. Schools can also provide high expectations. Emphasizing students' strengths is a way to build their resilience.
Johns Hopkins University has a whole model called the Talent Development High School, which was premised on the idea that all kids have talents, all children have gifts. Our job is to develop those talents, to identify the gifts. And there's a lot of research shows that when you build on a child's strengths, you actually build confidence. And building confidence by emphasizing strengths is the key to resilience. And many of our kids, particularly those from the most disadvantaged families, need to be resilient. They need to be persistent. They need to understand that when you fall, you've got to get up again.
All of these assets speak to how important one caring adult can be in the life of a young person. Creative activities, youth programs, achievement motivation, school engagement, helping with homework, and bonding to the school. That one caring adult can be a parent, another family member, a neighbor, or a school professional. As you watch this video, think about the caring adults in your schooling that helped build your assets.
For about 40 years now at Search, we've been using research to ask young people about their lives, their families, and their communities. There are 40 assets. They are both internal and external assets. The external assets tell us about the needs that young people have for support from adults in their communities, about the kind of activities they need to develop, the kind of boundaries that they need in their lives. And the internal assets tell us about the values that will affect their behavior. It tells us about the skills, etc., and things that they really care about and that they're committed to.
Asset number 1, I get lots of family support.
Asset number 10, I feel safe at home.
Asset number 39, I have a strong sense of purpose in life.
Asset number 14, I have a lot of adult role models. Asset number 25, I like to read books for fun.
Asset number 17, I spend a lot of time doing creative activities.
Asset number 34, we're comfortable with people from different backgrounds.
Asset number 28, I have integrity and I stand up for my beliefs.
Asset number 35, I can resist pressure from bad influences.
What Search Institute has found is that young people with few assets, 10 or fewer, are very likely to engage in many forms of high-risk behavior, like alcohol and other drug use, too early sexual expression, and violence. And at the same time, young people with very few assets are less likely to engage in some very positive behaviors, like succeeding in school, affirming diversity in their midst, taking care of their own health. Now, in contrast, those young people with many of the developmental assets, let's say more than 30, are much less likely to engage in high-risk behaviors and are much more likely to engage in positive behaviors like school success.
This research is a wake-up call. It's not about pointing fingers. It's not about who's there to blame. It's about taking action. It's about looking at what you and I can do to make a difference. It's asking parents, teachers, community leaders, congregational members to take action to helping kids succeed. And even just as important, it's asking kids to take responsibility for their own behavior.
Maslow's hierarchy of needs helps us think about how unfulfilled student needs can pose non-academic barriers to learning. In this model, satisfaction of the lower level needs is required before the person can move on to the next higher level. If something happens to remove the factors that satisfy the lower level, then the person must find something to fill that need before moving forward and fulfilling higher needs. Many challenging student behaviors are simply an attempt to fulfill one of these needs. The Ohio Department of Education has created a number of web documents to help school professionals understand the barriers to learning. Here are a few ODE resources for you to note. You will also find this list in the Resource tab of this Blackboard site. Let's test your knowledge with a few myths and facts. Whenever a student has red eyes, he or she has been doing drugs. This is a myth. Red eyes may be caused by allergies, lack of sleep, problems with contacts, or other health issues, maybe even crying or emotional distress. Myth or fact, bullying only happens at other schools. All schools experience bullying. Bullying is just kids being kids. It makes kids tougher and teaches them valuable life lessons. Bullying can actually be deadly for the victims and for the bully. Kids have the right to attend schools in which they feel safe. Even federal and local legislation say so. Parents will punish children if they're reported to Child Protective Services. Besides, kids will lie to get their parents in trouble. Although some of these concerns may be real, we have a legal obligation to report suspected child abuse. Only low-income parents commit child abuse. Actually, abuse occurs in all income levels. Children don't commit suicide. This is a myth. Actual incidents of childhood suicide are underreported in order to spare parents. Talking about suicide will increase the likelihood that someone will commit suicide. This is a myth. Talking about suicide is the only way to save a life. But suicide is contagious. This is a myth. In fact, teaching students the warning signs of suicide will not increase the likelihood that someone will attempt it, but it may save someone's life. Good kids won't have these problems. I can always spot a troubled kid. This is a myth. Students who are perceived to have, quote, everything are also at risk for mental health issues, depression, suicide, addictions, bullying, or victimization. The parents are at fault when something goes wrong with the child. This is a myth. We are all at fault when we lose a student to one of these mental health issues. I don't know how to help these kids. This is a myth. You're not expected to be a therapist, but you can identify and refer kids who worry you. One caring adult can save a child's life. Your attention and caring makes a difference. Research suggests that one caring person who asks, "Are you okay?" can help a student get help. It is important that you recognize the changes that exist in student behavior, appearance, and performance. We will discuss each of these in greater depth at different times throughout these training modules. If a student cannot ask for help, then you must extend yourself and make a referral. Declining schoolwork, sudden slipping or dropping of grades, missing school, unexplainable dramatic mood changes, dropping out of usual activities such as sports, music, hobbies, physical appearance changing, or that general feeling that a student has lost motivation. These are some of the general indicators that might tell you something is going on with a student and it is time to reach out. Depression, anxiety, unusual forgetfulness, unusual sleeping habits, or behavior that will make a student's pre-existing health condition worse. You will notice a recurring theme throughout these 4 modules. What we can do is prevent, identify, reach out, and refer. We can prevent by building relationships with students, learning the warning signs to identify students who are experiencing barriers to learning. We can reach out to those students and tell them that we care and that we want to help. And when needed, refer students to our staff or community resources. Remember, you're not being asked to counsel students. This is the role of the counselor or social worker. These professionals will need only the name of the student and reason for your referral. In the Columbus City Schools, the Student Assistance and Intervention for Learning, or the SAIL process, is a framework to utilize in order to address students at risk. If a student is spiraling down with multiple warning signs, you may be working all 3 levels of SAIL simultaneously.